Hello everyone, it's Australian Motorcycle News with Peter Bom again, with the update from what happened today in Japan, MotoGP race in Motegi. A lot happened, we have a world champion, well that's not the biggest surprise. The biggest surprise was the winner from the qualifying and today's race, Pecco Bagnaia. These are the main topics to speak about here. But yeah, I have to start with the world champion because that is the biggest thing that happened. It's not a surprise, of course, when you're already world champion with still 5 races to go. It should not be a surprise for anybody. The real surprise is the dominance that Marc Marquez showed this year. It's an example of when a very good bike meets a very good rider. They have a happy marriage. Everybody else is suffering because they are together on a completely different planet, at least this year. So yeah. And considering the story, what is behind it, Marc Marquez becoming world champion after having already quite a couple of world championships in Moto 1 to 5, Moto 2 and the MotoGP, then having these injuries, trying to come back, having operations, more operations, then finally going to Ducati. It's a beautiful story, it's a beautiful comeback as well. And that is basically maybe the best word to describe this weekend, the comeback from Pecco Bagnaia, the comeback from Marc Marquez. So Marc the champion, I don't have a lot to say there because he made it look like an easy year. It's definitely not easy. It's a good example of everything coming together. All the stars are aligned and the guy just checks out. On his Ducati. The bigger surprise was what happened to Pecco Bagnaia. Pecco Bagnaia and his teammate in the factory team should challenge him for the championship. Very early in the season it was already clear Pecco is not so happy with the 2025 bike. They tried to make it the same as last year's bike, which he felt comfortable with, but couldn't really do that with the new engine and so on and so on. Marc never complained, he just win. Usually his brother on last year's bike, Alex Marquez, was then second and then Pecco was third on his best days. But then he completely lost the pot. Maybe they tried so many different settings and he lost the confidence and the feeling and his performance really spiraled downwards the last couple of races. But somehow here they came with a setting they learned in Misano that gives him a lot of the feedback that he needs to be fast, and now he looked like the old Pecco that put the thing on pole, takes the whole shot and just never looks back, wins it with 1.5, 2.5, 3, 4 seconds, whatever is necessary. So Pecco is back, that's for sure, but this is also a very special track. Basically your motorbike in Motegi needs to do only one thing, and it needs to stop very effectively as long as it's upright. Because you spend very little time going into the corner and out of the corner with all the ride-height devices, more than anything else in the aero. It's quite easy, more or less, to do as good as the bike allows you. So riders make the difference themselves in the braking area, and they definitely found something. To say that Pecco really is completely back and maybe challenging Marc in the next couple of races, I need to see another race on a completely different track and then see how competitive he will be. The other competitor for the world championship in theory is Marc's brother Alex. He's in P2 in the championship, will quite likely finish P2 in the championship, but he had a very, very difficult weekend. This is a special track, special character, you like it or you don't. If you don't like it, it's very, very hard to turn the ship around in the weekend, and if you like it, we saw the guys in MotoGP. Let's go to the result list. Friday morning, who was fastest? Pecco Bagnaia. Marc was immediately there. Joan Mir was on Friday morning already immediately there. Bezzecchi was already there. So it's all the usual name. Alex Marquez finishing 6th, who is normally in 2nd. That's actually for him a really good result, because considering the weekend, he was more here than here usually. So it's one of these special places. If you don't like it, it's like damage salvation. That brings me immediately to your Moto 2 rider from Australia, Senna Aegis. He doesn't like the place. It doesn't fit his riding style, obviously. The races that he did quite well this year so far, or even was winning, were the type of tracks where it's fast and flowing, and that's the opposite from what we were doing here. So he qualified wherever, somewhere in the 20s or something, and then he had a DNF today's race when he was in P17 and then crashed out of the race. And his teammate was on pole, so it's not like the team was confused. No, it just, when it doesn't click with you, it doesn't click, and it's so hard to change it in just one weekend. Speaking of clicking, the Honda and Joan Mir and Motegi are also a really good combination. Honda owns the track, but it doesn't mean they automatically always have so much success there. It's more the Ducati track the last couple of years. But the progress by Honda is very, very clear to see. They have 2-3 Hondas in the top 10 this weekend regularly. So, and Joan Mir did a really good qualifying by himself, put it on the front row, And then you get away with even a podium today. Yesterday, fourth in the sprint, and today he finished on third place, which is for the Honda really good. Now, Joan Mir is maybe not the rider. Very, very technical. They have Luca Marini for the technical development and the feedback, but yeah, whatever you think of Joan Mir, when you put something under his ass that works, he opens throttle and he gives you the result usually, or he crashes. So happy to see a Honda on the podium again. The first rider that's not on the podium, that's always like the silly position. And today in the race results, we had Marco Bezzecchi on P4, which looks like not a very nice position, because Friday was really good for all the Aprilias, but Saturday everything went wrong with the Aprilia. So for me, it's a strong result considering where he comes from, and it shows that they could be more up if the qualifying was any better for them. That's about the MotoGP. Apart from Pecco Bagnaia with his comeback, where does it come from? Just to give you an idea, because everybody is scratching their head, why is he suddenly fast? They found something in the Misano test, which works here, but we need confirmation of that change on other tracks which are more than just upright braking to make sure it really works. But if they found something and he's from now on fast, it's actually very, very disappointing from Ducati and his side of the grass. Why they didn't found it earlier? Because with the current rules, you can't just bring another engine or your own ECU or something. You know, there's a lot of things that you cannot change. It's clear so far this year that the 2025 Ducati is not a very nice bike. Look at Fabio Gianantonio and Marc Marquez and Pecco Bagnaia. It's only Marc Marquez that does good results with it, and the other two guys are like performing, all of them, lower than we all know they should be able to do. So it's a difficult bike. Something they changed between the Misano race and here that helped Pecco a lot. Cool, looking forward to see it, but really strange, where does it come from? Yeah, that's it more or less about the result from the MotoGP that I wanted to share with you. We had, fortunately, also some Australian riders, Moto3 and Moto2, as you know. We had Joel Kelso on the front row, so I had some high hopes for him. He clearly likes this track and this place. He finished 8th, which sounds disappointing coming from the front row, but it was a weird race. Not because Moto3 races are often weird. This one was weird in another way, because it started like raining, stopped raining a little bit more, and then really stopped. And every time there is some wet patches on the track, it wasn't really rain, more drizzling. There's always a couple of riders that close a lot, and there's a couple of riders that open more, and you get short groups, and Joel Kelso wasn't really in the best group, so P8 was the best he could do. Jacob Rulstone, coming from 20, having a very, very difficult weekend so far, finishing 13. Still not great, but at least he was the first from his group where he was in, which for me is always an interesting sign that the rider, at least in the race, was willing also to win the fight for this position. Senna Aegis, like I said earlier, doesn't like the track, finished somewhere in P20 and then didn't finish today's race. He was in P17 and only, I think, 5-6 laps in the race, not even that long. He lost it, he crashed by himself alone. So difficult weekend for him, not for his team. His teammate was on pole, so it is a track that setting-wise it should work, but if this track doesn't shoot you, it really doesn't shoot you. Motegi is a bit special in that. Then we had Jack Miller, of course. We go to the result list. He's not even classified. Poor Jack had a broken chain, so he didn't even finish the race. Now this is the 4th chain problem in 2 races. We had 3 chain problems on KTM's in Misano. We have 1 here. So what I think is behind it, not the bikes have suddenly doubled the horsepower, or the chain manufacturer forgot to put the heating system good on. It's more that the way the ride height devices work, they drop the ride height more and more, really deep at the moment. But if you're in a situation when you drop the ride height a lot and at the same moment you accelerate over the curbstones, then there will be such quick movements in the suspension that leads to super high peaks of torque in the chain that he has to absorb. And I think we're on the limit of what torques can have with the current ride height systems and then accelerating over the curbstone. So, because the 4th chain in 2 races, that's a lot. Poor Jack. That was it from today's race in Motegi, Japan. Thanks for watching. Next week, Indonesia. Hope to see you back again there. Thanks for watching.